space. Better do that at some point. Okay, welcome everybody to Talking Niagara. Hope you had a great weekend. Hey, last day of March today, Monday, 31st of March. And, well, April to come, right? April Fool's Day tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, it won't make any difference to me because I seem to be fooled all the time. Oh, just another Fool's Day.
Yeah, but you're not the person who gets fooled by those people around who are trying to con, everybody,
No,
particularly.
no, no, not that kind of April Fools. I mean, I'm just kind of blown away every day by me by what's happening in the news.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Anyway, I was the star of Qantas TV Bingo last night.
yep.
Big announcement out there for anybody who plays Qantas TV Bingo. Next week is going to be a funny week, a funny Sunday, because if the Ice Dogs are still survive in the playoffs, then the bingo game will be at 11 o'clock in the morning instead of 8 o'clock at night, and that is because the your TV will be covering that game if it happens. So that's just keep an eye on what's happening with the Ice Dogs if you play Qantas TV Bingo, because the game
Okay.
may be at 11 and it may be at
That's that's quite a difference in time. 11 or in the evening.
yep.
How many
Well,
people will be there for the 11 o'clock one? That's the if
well,
you're
we have one game a year, at 11 o'clock. This year we've had now the second game because the playoff game is going to be on a Sunday. Normally we have one game when there's a tournament come to town where your TV covers it. Then we have one game a year at 11 o'clock. This we've already had that game, and it looks like we're going to have another game, which is rather unusual.
Mm, yeah, okay. All right. Well, I wish you well with that. And if you're calling it, you have to be ready for that phone call. Well, if I know, you have to know when it's going, don't you? Well, everybody associated with has to know. When will we know whether it's early morning or late in the afternoon?
We may not know until Saturday night. The
Really?
game happens on Saturday night. That's how
Oh,
close this one is. All other games that happen at 11 o'clock, we have forewarning. We know exactly this day it's going to be at 11 o'clock, but this time it could be 11. It could be 8, depending on how well the Ice Dogs do, and we might not
well,
know until Saturday.
I wish the Ice Dogs well. Um, to throw a spike in the confusion picture there.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's not gonna be pretty because even when we forewarn our our customers basically that the game is at 11 o'clock once a year every year, we still get over 30 people phoning in complaining that the game wasn't on at 8 o'clock, even though they were forewarned many times weeks ahead
Mm.
of time. And this, and even though last night I mentioned it a few times, and then after that we had people phone in, so it's people forget.
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I would, if we don't know until Saturday night, I'd be the one. I'll be the one who, if I were playing, I'd be the one who kind of go, "Well, what the heck happened? Why no bingo?"
Yeah.
anyway, anyway, everybody pay attention to that and pass it on to people you might know. All right, how about that?
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, Niagara Falls residents are not surprised by a stabbing at Rosberg Park recently. And Rosberg Park is that park next to basically Queen Street and Erie Street. You know,
Right across from the city hall, basically.
oh yeah, exactly. And I'm that's generally speaking, that's a quiet place to be.
Not at night, evidently.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Well, I've been there. I've been at night a few times after city council meetings, but not in the last year.
Well, according to the local residents there, they are in fear,
Mm,
which in Niagara Falls is just stupid. Like, there's no way we should be in fear of walking at night in this town.
yeah.
I, for years and years, I've seen women walk late at night down the sidewalks. You know, I've never been too comfortable with that, but you never hear of too many incidences. And there is a guy who was just sitting on a park bench, and some guy stabbed him multiple times. The guy had to be rushed to a special hospital to save his life, and have emergency operations.
Yeah.
This is typical. This is not typical of this area at all. Now, the guy who's done such a thing like that, it was out of his mind. Obviously, he's madder than a hatter because he didn't stab the guy to get any money or anything. He just attacked the guy. They found the guy a little bit later on Simcoe Street, the perpetrator on Simcoe Street, and he seems to have had a kind of a record.
Mm.
What's going on down there? This is
this is the 66-year-old Toronto resident who was stabbed multiple times while sitting there, and I'm glad they caught the guy.
Now, a fellow by the name of Nagy said when it gets dark, people come out and are usually armed with box cutters, knives, and he is even seen a person carrying a machete. We need foot cops on that street. We need patrol cops on foot walking up and down the street, not one sleeping, drinking coffee in their cars. Right? We need a foot patrol there. That's what we need.
Well, anywhere you've got this kind of action, yes, you need some foot patrol, and not just for a couple of weeks, until they caught a guy. Although yes, they have caught this particular individual. This is supposed to be a safe area.
Well, yeah, we need cops walking the beat, obviously. And this particular fella, his name is Nagy, who is quoted here, says, "Everyone around here has some sort of protection. You betcha something I have. I carry a baseball bat," he says, "and you can't let these people push you around." So who are these people who are coming armed? Well, I could see like a bunch of homeless people who roam around at night, maybe looking for drugs or something, but have to feel they protect themselves from the drug dealer or from others who will jump them for their drugs. Maybe some people
but most homeless people are not. Most homeless people, won't go as far as stabbing somebody. They might harass them for money, but not stabbing normally.
Most.
Yeah, most. I know.
So how many of percentage of it? Like, obviously, the town has become very dangerous.
That's the problem. That's part of the problem. Yeah, and that's part of the problem we face right now. And the only thing that's really going to put a stop to this is beat cops, and I think you're right.
We're going to have cops walking the beat. Unfortunately, the detached nature of police these days isn't going to help us in situations like this where they sit in their car and look for somebody who does some speeding now again. Parking a car downtown, a police car downtown, may have some deterrent effect, but you're really going to have somebody walking the beat. That's what I think. I know they don't want to do that. They have to get out of the nice warm vehicle and all that. But if you walk up and down the beat, that's I think that's the best way to solve something like this, particularly in a localized area like downtown.
Well,
I'm sure the residents and the businesses in and around there will feel much better. And it says here too that there's some businesses that are closed up there, and mainly, and the suggestion of the article is that because of the people that hang around down there.
yeah, I don't know, but it's possible. Yeah, and the whole question is, it's become a bit, you know, you go somewhere like City Hall, which I've done from time to time to go to the council meeting, and yes, it is a bit seedy out when you come out in the, in the dark late at night.
All right, a walk around the area on Saturday saw a Niagara Regional vehicle stopped in the parking lot at Rosberg's Family Park. I think that only does something. The crime just moves up a couple of blocks out of sight.
Yeah.
Most of the businesses in the area are closed, including nearly new
Well, Saturday,
Big Brothers and Big Sisters of America. A representative of the store declined to comment on the stabbing.
yeah,
Somebody burned down the Empire building, of course, too. So there is this, I don't know, this terrible, I don't know, this shift in our society. And when you have a lot of homeless people, and you're going to get a level of desperate people in there. We do know that drug addiction and drugs is a big problem among the homeless. When that happens, it changes their mind. It dehumanizes them, and they'll do just about anything to get drugs, which might mean stabbing or beating or anything. So I don't know. This is going to be more fuel to the notwithstanding clause of getting people, round them up and take away the rights and put them in kind of reserves of some kind, or detention, semi-detention centers, so they're away from people. This also is going to be, if this kind of thing continues to happen, less and less people will be concerned about the rights of the homeless and quite happily have them put outside the edges of town in a sort of detention center.
well, yeah, it's good that you mentioned the Empire Building fire, because I saw that at the weekend but didn't find an article about it.
Yeah, well, there's just I don't know. I've talked to Gary Wilkes told me about what he saw in Peterborough, and another friend of mine who'd been in Peterborough within the last couple of months told me the same thing. He says it's way worse in Peterborough, where there's just these zombie people all over the place, and the drug addiction and homeless situation is many times worse than it is here, which leads me to believe that what's happening there will be happening here.
Well, some of the worst situation, yeah, we need to do something about it. That's for sure. And I think having beat cops helps.
That might help quite a bit. Just having a cop parked there in a nice big huge SUV, and it's not the way. I remember there used to be beat cops. I remember in Niagara Falls, New York, there was beat cops there. I remember walking around there late at night, and there'd be beat cop.
Well, it's funny. It's a generation when you and I were kids, there would have been beat cops everywhere, right?
Well, there was more of them. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way, and they would put a beat cop where you needed him. Once I was in Montreal, and things must have been so bad in Montreal that they had 4 beat cops all together walking down the street. So 4, not just a team of 2. Now, normally you get a beat cop and it's one guy, and he just keeps things going and calls in anything really bad. But I remember 4 of them walking down the street in tandem with their billy clubs. Right. So 4 beat cops.
Yeah.
That's how bad it must have been there.
Well, and the funny thing is about it is that I think that deters thieves, robbers, people who break into stores and homes, etc., and violent crime generally.
Yeah.
But you got to target the areas.
One of the things to do is light things up quite bright. They've discovered in the United States quite by accident some years ago that areas of the city that were very well lit up were less inclined less inclined to crime. So that's maybe one thing they can do down there is light things up very bright.
Yeah.
But all it does is push the perpetrators into the shadows. If you can't walk down the street at night or sit on a park bench, there's something going on. And we found that the man was murdered in a park by a lunatic not long ago here in Niagara Falls. That woman killed 3 people and was determined unfit to stand trial because she was a lunatic. So
okay, so Mike is saying, I challenge our city council to walk Victoria Avenue and Coronation area all day and at night. Every homeless person has something.
Yeah, it's a dodgy area.
Yeah.
I talked to one of the store owners down there, and he claims, he says, those people don't want to get better.
Yeah,
he says, they don't want to get better. They like what they're doing.
Yeah,
making a mess.
Police arrest the junkies, and they are at the next day giving the cops bird. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so
the changes to federal electoral districts. Oh, we know that. Yep. Okay, we'll be coming to that one anyway. Yeah. And junkies waived their rights when they first took the drug.
Well, that's I don't know, that's kind of judgmental. All different kinds of people take that drug and get locked into that kind of lifestyle. Yeah. They make a poor decision, maybe a very poor decision. Our society just doesn't have the capability of stopping that process.
Mike says, take a cane for protection.
Yeah.
Buy your cane off Mike, of course.
I might just do that. I use a cane from time to time. And I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. And we will be coming, I promise, John, we will come back to that federal boundary impact. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So where are we? Okay. Gloom but not doom at Stelco with the tariff war. What's this one all about, Dave?
Well, Stelco is worried, but not. Just as this title said, it's gloom but not doom. They're not happy about what's going to happen, but they're not totally frightened yet. What happened the last time the U.S. put steel tariffs on us? I think back when Trump did, steel exports dropped 40%. So the Canadian steel companies had to find domestic buyers, and they were able to do that. That's the kind of thing they're going to do now too, is try to find more buyers. But it's kind of interesting in this article, Cleveland Cliffs is a U.S. company that has bought Stelco. That's not unusual. Offshore companies buy our steel mills. So they've bought it, and they've made investments, and suddenly Trump comes along and says, well, we want steel done here. So this is an American company playing by the rules of USMCA, the trade agreement, and then are kind of impaled basically on their move, because that's what they expected to do. At the same time, they're shuttering some of their U.S. plants, at least temporarily. Now, they're happy overall of Trump. Of course, the spokesperson says they're happy overall that the tariffs are in, because that will revitalize U.S. steel production. So ostensibly, some of these shuttered plants will start kicking in, and that's what Cleveland Cliffs says it's going to do. It's going to start those plants back up again. But it also says that it doesn't have a dim view of what's going to happen to its Canadian plant, Stelco. It still feels the Canadian plant still has a good future.
A role to play.
Yeah. I've worked at Stelco a number of times as a contractor, both the Lake Erie plant and the Hamilton Works. So a great deal of their steel goes off to the auto industry. So if the car is being made here in Canada, it won't affect that part of the deal.
You must understand how much offshore steel is used behind closed doors.
Yeah, steel dumping was a big problem. I remember in the 90s, it was a huge problem because there was loopholes in the Canadian law and also in the U.S. But what was happening is German and Japanese were dumping tons and tons of steel into Canada under some sort of pretext that there was a loophole in the law, and then a lot of that steel was ending up in the U.S., but most of it was staying here that was undercutting domestic steel. So what happens is they have steel and they want to keep their own steel mills going, but they can't unless they have reason to. So they were making steel and dumping it all over the world to keep their steel mills going and undercutting our own steel. It took us a long time to bottle up those loopholes. And then we had the dispute with the U.S. During Bush's time about steels. That took 4 years to resolve, but it was resolved in our favor, according to the NAFTA agreement. So there are problems, and offshore dumping is a big deal. The U.S. cannot produce steel as cheap as other countries can, particularly now China can produce all kinds of steel very cheap. And you know why? Because they keep their currency low, they keep their yuan low, and they dictate how much people get paid to make that steel, which is unfair trade practices.
Yeah. Okay.
But now, like I've worked in all the steel mills around here, and and all the offshoot steel companies like Corda Steel, and there's a couple other ones. So I've worked in DeFasco, Hamilton Works, Stelco, lots and lots at Lake Erie Steel. I've worked all kinds of places. I've seen the ups and downs of the steel market. It's pretty important that we keep a steel industry going. Some years ago, I made a ton of money at Stelco down in Nanticoke. Worked 12 hours a day for 25 days in a row, and then was 5 days off and worked another 12 hours a day for 21 days in a row and made a mitt full of coin.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So Fort Erie is basically one of the new what is happening is Fort Erie is moving from, in the election, Fort Erie is moving from Niagara Falls riding to Niagara South riding, and as is pointed out by John Ringo Bean, the changes to the federal election occur because the election was called after April 22nd, 2024. And had it been called before that date, it would have been old boundaries, not new boundaries. So we are in the new boundaries, new election, and Niagara Center gets Fort Erie added to it and becomes Niagara South. There's a bit of a complaint about that, is that it's now a massive riding, one of the bigger ridings.
Now, something that I didn't realize, I guess the boundaries of the ridings are examined every 10 years.
Yeah.
And readjusted uh, based on population. I
Yeah,
think it is.
yeah.
So now we have this real big one, which is Welland, Port Colborne, Fort Erie. Uh, is it justified to do that? Um, is it? I don't really see any hocus pocus going on here because I don't really think it benefits one party over another. Not like the
Well,
gerrymandering that happens in the United States.
yeah, but you see, I don't think this particular one. I think Niagara South will probably end up, going Badaway moves over, doesn't he? Um, from um, Badaway moves over from Niagara Centre to being the Liberal candidate for Niagara South, and I'm guessing that they're looking at the potential that he will continue on as the new MP.
Yes,
But
Van,
there might well be.
Vance unfortunately shares the same name with that dude down south, JD. Don't hold it against them. Don't hold it against them.
Well, yeah,
He's nowhere near
I'm
them.
not. Any individual's got the right to stand and be supported, but it's just now a much different riding than it used to be, right?
Yes,
And
he's Vance Badaway. I remember him.
well, he was former mayor of Port Colborne, and he has represented Niagara Centre for 10 years.
Yes, and I remember when he was. I think he was going for the provincial leadership at one time, or become. He didn't make it that time. I think it was. I was with the union at the time, and being the president of the union, and a couple of us went there. We were invited to one of his campaign stump speeches,
Yeah.
and they had officials from the government there. I don't think he won that election, but it was one of the oddest things I've ever seen. Uh, how camp political campaigns things. It was weird. But it was what it is. Like I didn't know what a, a campaign sort of collection of event would be like, but I thought it very strange. A lot of the people just got up on the stage and said the same thing over and over and over again. And one person would say it, then the next person would say it, and I kept thinking, does anyone have anything else to say?
You got to hate that, haven't you? Everybody's got the same speech that was handed out to them at the beginning of the show. Here, say this.
I have to say, what I was impressed with was the volunteers. Now, the volunteers were getting no money or anything, but they were working very hard to spread the message. In that particular case, for Vance Badaway and the Liberals, but
Yeah.
I've also been to campaigns for uh, um, Broadbent, the NDP leader Broadbent, and I think two of his, and one I got in by accident was one with for a conservative candidate once, but I kind of really appreciate the effort of the volunteers. These
Yeah.
people couldn't do anything if it wasn't volunteers going out there. So there's a lot of people who have real political zeal and they really believe in the ideology of their
Well,
candidate or their candidate's party and go
yeah.
out there and really do a lot of work.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Those are the people that go door knocking and and make sure that you've got the leaflets about the campaign, etc. So Niagara South has basically got Vance Badaway for the Liberals, Conservative Fred Davis, I think he stood before PPC Peter Tarras, who was candidate for PPC in Niagara Falls last time, and NDP Chantal McCullum, just to make sure we mention the main parties.
well, it's still going to be a two-party race. The PPP may get 4% of the votes, even in a very rural area like that, which is mostly rural and mostly to the right. So I don't I don't see the People's Party of Canada do anything more than 5% anywhere, even in a staunchly conservative zone like that mostly is. I think it is that, but I think probably Vance Badaway will win again. He is the incumbent, particularly now the the wind is behind the Liberals, and who's blowing that wind is Donald Trump.
Well, that's an interesting question, isn't it? Because in fact, we are living, as we've said, we're living now. The past 3 months have been a kind of big anomaly when it comes to polling situation, and the polling is certainly looking more like a return of another Liberal government.
Yeah, it does, particularly because the conservatives right now are kind of panicking, or so if you wanted to believe what some of the things I've been reading. I don't think it's panic, but
I don't think it's panic.
because of the sudden situation that they're in, where the liberals have taken away all their talking points, basically, the liberals are now saying we're going to open up mining. We're going to remember the liberals stifled all those things, but they're going to open up mining. They're going to open up pipelines. They're going to invest big time in getting our minerals out of the ground. All those things the liberals were against because they were environmentally focused. But now it's different. So that's taken the teeth out of the conservative. Carney's already canceled the carbon tax on the fuel, which he endorsed prior, but now he sees that's a losing situation. Plus the Trump factor. Now the conservatives were riding very high on all those points, and they've been taken away from them. And this extra Trump factor coming in, and the equatability between Canadian conservatives and Trump has really stunk them. And I guess they have divisions in their party right now, that there's a kind of angst that they were going to win hands down, and all of a sudden it looks like they're going to lose, and
Well,
what to do about it. And so there's a number of different conflicting opinions in the party, apparently.
yeah. Laurie Parliament is saying I volunteer for PPC Niagara South with Peter Terrace, and he said you might be surprised by the outcome if she does data entry.
I if I'd be willing to be surprised, but I don't think they're going to get more than about 5%. I believe that the
Well, the other thing,
EPC will not get in, because any conservative will probably shift their vote to Polyev, because they don't want to split the vote in any way or take away votes. And just like the NDP are a nothing party right now, um, I think the fringe parties like the PPC and the not so fringe NDP, but farther to the left NDP, the far right and the far left, will not do well this time around.
yeah, because they're focusing more upon the conservative or liberal segments of the community. Yes, I get what you're saying, but again, watch out, Laurie. Watch out for statistical anomalies, because in fact, you get oddities occurring throughout elections. Right, people who say yes, we're voting for you, and then don't.
Well, I think that the People's Party of Canada has a solid support, but it's very small.
Yeah, don't doubt that. And I wish best wishes to Peter Terrace and all of the candidates. And it's good that they've stood.
Yeah,
It's what our democracy requires, right?
yeah. We need people of every stripe to stand up, to either convince the voter to vote for them, and and support them. And that could be from anywhere in the political spectrum. If you don't have that political spectrum, you don't have democracy.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Down south, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz may well be relieved of his duties.
Yeah, they're going to need a fall guy for that breach of I don't know, a very important military plans that they had. You know what I mean? The
Yeah. Oh yeah.
what was the app they were using?
Wasn't it wasn't it
Starts with an S.
uh yeah, I don't know. Don't know.
Well, I'll have to look it up. I don't know why it's
Yeah.
evading me. I've been listening to it all.
Signal.
Signal.
Signal. Yeah.
Signal. Yeah, Signal app is these morons in the Trump administration, Walz and Rubio, and well, not Rubio so much. He's the one that's pointed the finger. He's thrown Walz under the bus apparently, but Walz and Hegseth and the other imbeciles were trading critical military information about a imminent strike on Houthi positions. If that had, and they shared it word for word with a journalist who should
Yeah.
not have been on that line, but was. So they shared it word for word with them. And that could have put, if the Houthis had got a hold of that, that could have been disaster for some of the pilots because they knew they were coming.
Yeah.
And they would have been prepared. Now but they said, well, no target was identified, so that wouldn't have happened. Well, anyone who has information about an imminent attack that's the enemy of the United States, whether it's the Iranians, the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, whatever, if they saw that signal, they would have all got ready for an imminent attack just in case it was them, because that's what happens, and particularly the Houthis.
Well, the question here was because one of the editors on one of the people on the line was the Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg, who they've decided should not have been a participant of this call.
Yeah, and once Jeffrey Goldberg put out there that he got all the secure information, classified information on Signal, then to prove it, he put out redacted parts of that. He was, as the Trump people often do, they just attack the messenger. So Hegseth started calling him an ingrate, a fool, somebody who just makes up lies. Walz and Trump, and they all just kind of dissed Jeffrey Goldberg, pardon me. And what he did then was that forced him to prove that he got all of it, and he put it all out there. Now, this was after the attack, so it's not going to hurt anybody. Although there are some people who think they can sort of reverse engineer this to get some sort of information about how the American military works. I doubt it, though. But
not after
he had to release the unredacted version to prove. And when they were brought up, Hegseth and when they're brought up and asked questions about this, they all pretend, I don't remember. That was
a him situation, right?
Yeah. I didn't remember. Now, Rubio's the only one that threw someone under the bus. He says, yes, somebody made a big. Everybody else kept deflecting, kept saying, I saw so many of them start talking about how Biden had put them at risk and how this was a great military operation, and would not answer the question at all about how bad this situation, breach of classified information. They all, like so many of them, just start talking about Biden. Well, Biden's got nothing to do with it. You messed up big time. who's responsible and how you're going to fix it. Did you
Yeah.
say, oh, it wasn't really all that bad? And when proven wrong, it was really bad. Then they say, oh, I didn't remember. I wasn't part of it. And what about Biden? Biden. Like,
Well, it's been agreed that Waltz should be shown the door, but there are fears among insiders that Trump will look weak for bowing to the demands for somebody to be fired.
well, he'll look weak if he keeps him, and he's in a bad situation. He'll look
Yeah,
weak if he
true.
keeps him, and he'll look weak if he dumps him. If this gets any worse, he's going to have a fall guy.
Yeah.
And that might be Waltz, that might be Hegseth, who knows? But he's going to have a fall guy. But right now, he looks weak for keeping an incompetent person, and he looks weak if he gets rid of him because he's endorsed the guy as being a wonderful, great guy doing a great job.
Yeah.
Where is he going to go?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. All right.
Now, blaming Jeffrey Goldberg didn't work. They tried that huge. They just jumped all over him, talked it like he was a really bad journalist and he's making stuff up and all that. When that didn't float, now they're going to have to look around. And I think Trump will look like more fall guy if he needs one. He's kind of hoping the whole thing will go away.
This has been hot in the offing for a couple of weeks now, and it's like, well, when I first saw this headline in this story, I thought, it's taking that long.
Yeah, they keep deflecting it though. They keep denying it, and then when there is no more plausible deniability, then they say, "Oh, we forgot."
Well, yeah, exactly. Part of it. In any government, plausible deniability exists, but it's long gone with this.
Yeah, this was an operation. If any of the American enemies had got on this signal thing and were able to read it, doesn't matter where they are in the world, they would have all been prepared for an attack. The Houthis would have been prepared. Hezbollah would have been prepared. Iran would have been prepared or looking out. It didn't matter that they didn't specify the target, which is the Trump administration is trying to say, well, we didn't specify the target, so nobody would have been hurt. Well, baloney. If there's a big attack coming, then everybody that is an American enemy will be prepared for it, whether it's going to hit them or someone else. You know, is this for us? We don't know. We better get ready anyway.
Yeah. And it prepares any and all of them, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Niagara has recruited a net increase of 16 new doctors in 24.
Yeah, but it's like 10.
Good thing, but we're still behind the times.
So we got a net plus of 6 because 10 are retiring or moving away. So we're getting 16, we're losing 10. So we only have a net gain of 6.
Yeah.
I think who was it had the idea? I think it was John Ringo Bain had the idea, if we have a big clinic where the city or the region itself builds the clinic and fills it up with all the things that a doctor will need, so the doctors do not have to put that expense out.
Like Morrison Medical.
Yeah, something like that, I guess, but you would have your own individual doctor. So a building full of doctors, you have your own particular doctor, but the city or the region has built the facility and filled it up with the computers and the staff that you're going to need. So you don't have to worry about the business aspect of your doctor. You just come in and start doing the doctor thing. That may be very appealing, and I think it was John Ringo Beam I learned that from. That is a really good idea, and I believe that it has been attempted.
Well, yes, it's a good idea, provided there are no parking costs.
Well, I think that's neither here nor there.
Well, I go to my doctor, and there are no parking costs. I park in her car park, and there's no cost for parking, and it's an important factor.
It's $3 for parking.
Yeah, it still matters. It matters.
Well, look, if you got a building full of people and they have to pave that parking lot, I don't know. I've never liked the fact that you had to pay for parking, but I see it as reality nowadays. But I don't care if I have to pay $10 if I get a good doctor. The doctor is the most important thing to me, whether or
That's
not you
true. That's true.
pay for the parking or not. I mean that can be an irritant, but what I want is good, solid medical care.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we've been losing out, and we still need more doctors.
We need doctors, and like I said in this particular article, we're getting a net of 6 because 10 are retiring. Not good enough. And that idea that that John Ringo Beam uh, shared with us, or shared with someone, I forget. Maybe it was with Paul. He shared it, and I happened to be a bystander. That would be a really good idea, where the startup expenses for a doctor can be taken care of by the city. All we want you to do is start doing your doctoring. Um, um, we'll take care of the building. We'll take care of the facilities in the building. All we want you to do is go to that building. We'll give you an office, and all we want you to do is do the doctoring, and everything else has to do with the doctoring, and we'll take care of the other expenses. I think that's a really good idea. I think
It's
it would.
probably the only way we're going to actually grow the family doctor service in Niagara, because we're left woefully short still.
Sure, because look, the doctor has to worry about staffing, and he has to
Yeah.
worry about how they keep the records, and how this and that and the other thing, and paying the rent in the unit they're in. Um, I think it'd be like, look, let me make a bizarre comparison. When Peter Grant was the manager of Led Zeppelin, they had no worries at all. He was also the manager of the Yardbirds before that, because he told them, just do your music. I'll take care of everything else. I'll take care of
Yeah.
everything else. All you do is the music. And he took his cut of 10 or 15% of whatever it was. And it was the best thing that ever happened to the Yardbirds, and then later on Led Zeppelin. I think that kind of thing has to happen here too. Look, don't worry about all the stuff, uh, the machines, the paperwork, the computers, and all that other thing that you're going to need. We'll take care of that. All we want you to do, go there and do the doctoring thing, and worry about all this other stuff
Oh,
less.
given the hospital, the doctor crisis we have here, we need it.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, moving on. Wayne Olson was chosen as the new Pelham Regional Councillor, as the existing one, what's her name, stepped down. Diana Hewson stepped down, leaving the seat vacant.
Does Wayne Olson have a twin?
Don't know.
Well, I don't know the guy at all. You posted the article. What can you tell me about this?
Yeah, well, basically, he's Ward One councillor in Pelham. And Pelham's only a small area anyway, and so I'm presuming that what will happen is he'll move from representing Ward One in on the city council and take over Diana Hewson's vacant seat for the remainder of this term, and then somebody will take over his seat within Pelham, within Ward One.
Well, we'll
So
see.
normally the way these things work, and basically this has been designated by the council in lieu of a by-election.
Yes. So, in this particular case, stepping in to avoid a by-election, well, that can be a good thing. It depends on what the people think of Pelham, if they think this is a good idea or not. Now, we brought back in uh, Cario recently, and that was to avoid a by-election. So that did us a service of uh, of avoiding the expense of a by-election, which is probably a good idea. Whether or
Yeah,
not
for the 1 year remaining term, 1.5 year remaining term, we don't need a by-election. That's for sure.
yeah. So and Chris Dabrowski too, he was brought in. That would we avoided another by-election. But how far down the line are we going to go? If someone else has to drop out of City Hall, are we going to go down to the next one?
Well,
You're
exactly.
getting you're getting to the point where the vote count is getting pretty thin now.
Yeah, exactly. But again, remember, Peter Angelo only got a few hundred votes when he got in.
150 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's because he was
something
out of Willoughby.
ridiculously small.
Willoughby, but that got his foot in the door, and then also,
Yeah,
um,
I'm not moaning about it. I'm just highlighting the point.
yeah, but yeah, but basically, you're getting too far down the list for a modern election in Niagara Falls. Peter Angelo got in when it was a ward system. This is an at-large system. So, how far down the list do you want to go? Do you want to put somebody in a counselor that maybe got a
Well, it depends upon how much time you've got. We got 18 months left in the council in all the councils.
How many votes did you get, Peter?
Not woefully short. 1,150 on the nose.
Well, I don't think we'll get down that far, but maybe you can.
Well, Mike got 1,700, so he's ahead of me.
1,700. Okay. All right. So we'll just have to wait and see how many counselors. If the counselors start dropping off, I think it's going to be Mike or you that's doing it. If all of a sudden they start disappearing, or something's happened to them.
Kapow, kapow. Yeah, like I would do that sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, stranger things have happened.
I'm sure they have actually. Yeah, I'm sure that has happened. Damn, I came third on the list. Let's top. Let's kill the guy, the incumbent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well. Anyway, so we are getting far off track here. So what's up next?
Okay, so Carney has had his first official phone call with Donald Trump, and it's supposed to have been cordial and positive.
Well, Trump did not humiliate him. Carney insisted that Trump, if they want to have this phone call, that Trump respect the sovereignty of Canada, and they did. So then Carney, once that was secured, he was invited to make a phone call to the president, and that was a condition. So respect the sovereignty of Canada. No more of this 51st state stuff. So they got into a call. So that's what you got to do. You got to face up to this guy, basically. So he says politely, do not do that. Do not deride Canada. Do not uh, uh, sort of belittle its sovereignty. And Trump did not do that. He had a cordial talk with Mark Carney. Never once called him the governor, Mark Carney. He didn't do any of that stuff. He enjoyed that when he humiliated.
He was pleasing himself with the digs at Trudeau.
Well, he wanted to get him back for the comments that Trudeau said behind his back. That was picked up by an open mic. That infuriated him. And Donald Trump is vengeful and vindictive, as we see all the time. He wants to get
at the moment he's got nothing to be vengeful and vindictive about against Mark Carney, right? Because unless he's going to make comments about his his business dealings or his time at the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England.
Well, I think Trump probably respects him. Mark Carney is a wealthy man, self-made man. He's been the governor of the Bank of England, governor of the Bank of Canada, and he's worked at Sachs and other investment companies, and he's made a pile of money on his own. So when Trump looks like something like that, he's an astute businessman, plus he's a banker, and he thinks, well, okay, this guy's got something, and plus he's not going to get into name calling, and so I don't know. I think probably Trump is giving him a bit of respect straight up, which is kind of good. He
Yeah.
definitely did not respect Trudeau.
Yeah, he did not respect Trudeau at all, and I think that's been part and parcel of it. Is that you know, uh, well, he wrote this post on Truth Social, which said, "I've just finished with speaking with Prime Minister Mark Carney, right, and described it as very productive. One line is notable." In its own right, in repeatedly calling the former Prime Minister Governor Trudeau, right?
Yeah, I think Trump is losing his mind, and I'm serious about that. The way he's been acting, the kind of things he's demanding, the Iceland thing, that all this, the changing of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. I think the guy is becoming a megalomaniac. I'm really worried
Well,
about.
I saw this. I saw this article at the weekend where somebody was basically saying, "Look, we've got the CETA agreement between Canada and the European Union, and of course, being Greenland being part of the European Union, and that we have therefore a healthy relationship between Greenland and Canada."
Well, if Greenland should belong to another country, it should be Canada. Let's face it, because the people of Greenland are much more related to the people of northern Canada.
It's an interesting thing that if they were to add the island of Greenland to Canada, what becomes the biggest nation in the world?
I don't think it's still big. It wouldn't be big enough to beat Russia.
Yes, it would.
Are you sure?
Oh yeah, it's a massive island, Greenland.
It is, but not that. You're Russia's like almost three times this. We're two and a half times the size of Canada. I don't think that will make up that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it will, but anyway, not to worry.
I think
Not, I don't
Greenland's
think
about
that's
the size of Mexico, isn't it?
pardon me?
I think Greenland's the size of Mexico.
Bigger.
Don't think so.
It's a massive
No,
place.
no, no. Don't be fooled by the way it looks on a map. That's
Yeah.
not a proper map. Look at it from a globe looking down, then you'll see the true size of it. But not from a map, not a flat map. You never get the right size of it from a flat map. I think it's about the size. It would fit into Western Europe, but I think it's about the size of Mexico. If I'm not sure. Was fact checking. In any case, I think Trump has gone mad. I think that business. He's looking for a pretext to invade or to take over Greenland. We could tell by the things that Vance is saying. There are utter lies. Trump is also lying big time about the Social Security.
Oh, you're right. Greenland. If you add Greenland to Canada, it wouldn't be more than because
So-
Russia's twice Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, remember Russia's gigantic, and then you have the next bunch of countries. So you have Russia's first. Then after that, you've got Canada, and then you've got China, the United States, and I think the next one's Brazil, Australia, and Brazil, or somewhere in there.
Australia is somewhere like that. Yeah.
I think Brazil is the
Australia's
fifth.
next.
Australia might be the fourth. But you get the three right away. You get the United States, Canada, and China are very similar in size.
Canada is much bigger than the US.
No,
Okay,
not
well-
much bigger. It's only a little bit bigger. It's like about
Yeah. Anyway.
yeah. They're very comparable in size.
Yeah.
And those three countries,
All right.
Canada, China, and the United
Where
States.
were we anyway? So Carney. Yeah. So Yeah, so basically, I think Carney's proven himself as being, as being quite a forceful character in terms of dealing with Donald Trump,
I think,
irrespective of what you
look,
might feel about his politics.
we don't know if he's going to win the election or not.
No, we
I
don't.
suspect he's going to win a minority election, and we're going to be in the liberal minority zone again. I don't know if the NDP are going to be able to gain enough votes to make the difference. Right now, I
Well,
don't
it
think.
depends. There's a couple. It's interesting when we're talking about that. In talking about that, there's an expectation that on a couple of the polls that I've been seeing more recently, there's an expectation that in fact there's a rise in the number of Liberal seats. But then other polls are saying there's going to be a minority Conservative government. So it's confusing right now in the polls.
Yeah, the Conservatives might be able to pull it out, but all I know is is the Liberals have a special room, a special a special sepulcher, the holy place where they have a big picture of Trump and they lay flowers at his feet because he has reignited the party.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a shrine. It's a shrine to their great new leader behind the scenes. Trump has motivated liberal to get back on their feet. They would have been destroyed uh, up until now, and now they're leading in the races. We'll see what happens eventually on the 28th. We'll see,
Yeah.
and if that happens, well, it happens.
29 days. 29 days to go.
29 days, the clock is ticking. But
Yeah.
we will see. I think Trump is showing signs of megalomania right now. I'm very concerned. I thought that the Congress and the Senate would be able to balance him, but he's using executive powers all over the place. He's using the excuse of the U.S. security on all things, and the Republicans have not been are afraid of him. That's dangerous when the Republicans are afraid of him. And he wants to conquer Greenland. He wants to annex Canada. He wants to all these things that are going on. He's double crossed the Ukrainians in the latest deal. The Ukrainians thought they had a deal with Trump, and then Trump has changed it completely to be so egregious that the Ukrainians could never accept something like that. It would be handing the control of all the resources and practically their country over to the United States. It is, I think, there's a tendency towards megalomania here. I'm not too happy with this at all. I wasn't afraid of Trump's megalomania until I saw what was happening to the Republican Party, that how afraid they are of saying anything. The Social Security that is supposed to us being spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on people that are over 100 years old is not the case at all. That's a big lie. Social Security runs at 99+% efficiency, and there are nearly no fraud at all in the Social Security, but he has made it look as if there is massive fraud, and this is a way in which he possibly wants to privatize it, hand it over to his buddies. Who knows? He's talked about. First of all, he talked about
Well,
First of all, he talked about $50 million of condoms going to Hamas. Now he's talking about $100 million of condoms going to Hamas, when that never happened. That
yeah.
Gaza thing they were talking about was in Mozambique. That's another lie that is being perpetuated.
Well, and that's a big problem. That's a big problem that we have about lies perpetuating.
But the thing is people believe it right away.
Yeah.
Fox jumps on it, spreads that news, and then he keeps the lie going. And as Stalin said, the bigger the lie, well, both Stalin and Hitler, evidently, it's hard to ascribe it to any particular dictator in any particular time in history. But sometimes I hear it ascribed to Hitler, sometimes Stalin. It's pretty much the bigger the lie, the more likely you can get away with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and Goebbels was the chief liar of
Yeah,
the
he
Nazi
was.
Party, right?
Yeah, the twister and turner of facts.
Yeah.
And right now, Fox Network is Trump's Goebbels.
All right, and I think we can leave it at that point.
Yes, without further ado, I bid you do. Pray for peace. Things are getting out of hand, and Gaza is right off the top of the out of the news these days, which it shouldn't be, where people are suffering. The Israelis have not allowed more food in. No journalists are allowed in there. And they're bombing the crap out of people.
Yeah.
That is because they failed in the first attempt to wipe Hamas, and they're happy as hell that Trump is in because he'll turn a blind eye to every kind of harsh and I can't get into it. All right.
Yeah.
Without further ado, I bid you do. Praise for peace.